morning everyone. My name is John Coulter, and I'm your business advisor. Welcome to the ShopTalk session. Just a few words about ShopTalk. There's some new faces in the room, so we'll go through it just briefly again. ShopTalk started really back in 2011 as a result of business owners like yourselves at our open days approaching Paul Cubbage, the managing director here, and talking about business. And it's not that Paul doesn't like talking to customers about business, it's just he does have a day job. And he decided on the back of that to grow ShopTalk much more by employing a full-time business advisor, which is me. Since we started out in 2011, the blog's grown dramatically. We just passed our 100th blog, or I just passed my 100th blog a couple of months ago, something I'd never envisaged doing until just recently. Welcome, come in, have a seat. Until just recently, but we've grown it a lot more in other directions as well. We now do workshops. Today's an example of a workshop. Sorry, come in, sit down. Today's an example of a workshop, but I also run 3 other workshops as well. Winning New Business, which is all about different techniques to bring new customers across your doors. By different techniques, I mean I do not talk about leaflets and marketing and advertising in those contexts. I talk about ways you can sell yourself and your value that plays to why people want to use you, the things that really differentiate you, so things that demonstrate your expertise, things that demonstrate your impartiality and so on. I also do one called Get the Customers You Deserve. Come and join us, Keith. Get the Customers You Deserve, which is all about customer service. And the third one is one I just started recently, which is on the detail of the retail price comparison. All of these are provided free of charge. Everything we do is without obligation. Any matter, large or small, that you have, you can get in contact with me. That's what we want to do. And we do it for a very simple and serious reason. We only sell to the trade. If you guys don't make it, then neither do we. So clearly we've got a big interest, vested interest in making sure that you're as successful as you can be, which is one of the main drivers behind the whole of ShopTalk and what we do. Mentoring, that's me working one-to-one with businesses. It could be just a simple phone call. But typically it will be something of a longer scale, maybe a few visits over a number of months where we talk about various changes in the business, possibly going out and collecting some pricing information, for example, and working out on what a new price might be, or thinking about ways and means to better market and sell the business. And again, that's something that you can call on from a large extent, several visits, right through to just a simple phone call or even an email. And just on that point, everyone should have a business card. There's your business cards on the seats. You never know when you might have a question. Take the business card away with you. It may never prove any use to you. It's only a business card, but at the same time, you can email me or call me anytime you wish. There really is no problem with doing that.
Hi, Gary.
It's all right. Take a seat.
Thank you.
One just there if you want.
Great.
So that's the first 3 things. Yeah, we've also got an opinion section where the blog and the workshops, the mentoring is mainly about the business side of what you do. Opinions trying to bang the drum a bit more for the cause of independent retailers. That's something that Paul feels particularly strong about, and you'll find some blogs in there that talk to that cause. Many of you should be aware of our forum, our customer-only environment, where you can ask each other questions, be that about pricing, be that about items that you're stocking, and so on and so forth. It's something that we don't take a lot of part in. It's really your closed environment. We're talking about your products. Come in please. There's seats at the back, all over. But it really is your environment and it's what you want to make it. And last but not least, there's this research area. What do we do on research? There's first prize for this. There's always a prize game in each session for which person's mobile phone goes off. The research is about things like the retail price comparison. It's also about things like shopping preference surveys that I conduct with the public, with customers, because it's a great way to know your business. And the interesting insights that tells us about what people think about you and independent retail. I'm available through all these media. Yeah, I post twice a day, not just on blog updates, which I try to do once a week, but I pop up things that I think will be of interest to you. Changes to HMRC guidelines, changes to employment legislation. Could be anything at all, anything particularly relevant that I think might apply to a small independent IT retailer or business. And that's the one thing that really separates ShopTalk from any other business advice centre, is the fact that we're doing it specifically with you guys in mind. So it's not just general business advice that's being made available, we're doing it for IT retailers and small IT businesses. And there's nobody else that does that. If you want to follow me on those, on Facebook we're Target ShopTalk, Twitter @TargetShopTalk, Google Plus ShopTalk, Pinterest ShopTalk. You can tell ShopTalk comes up quite a lot, can't you? LinkedIn, it's me, John Coulter. YouTube, today's videos, for example, will be on our YouTube channel. Last year's videos are on there too. And by email, we've got the business card. Please do not feel the slightest bit worried about making contact. Okay? It's there. That's where it is. Right, today's agenda. We've already covered off the retail price comparison. We're also Rent to Superstars is what today is about. The next two sessions after this are ones that I'd recommend you come to. But quite seriously, I would. Price competition and how to do it. We're going to look at the principles of what competing on price actually means. We think about the consequences of those principles. And then use that to go forward into the last session at 4:30, which is a really practical advice, stuff that you could take away and start implementing immediately to help you better compete on price. Everybody's cycling to transform your business. And we're going to break that down into a number of little sort of subsections. How to identify inspiration, insight into a remarkable transformation, the British cycling success that we recently seen at the Olympics, but there's quite a story that goes back before that. How they did it and why that same approach is within your easy grasp. Doesn't mean you've all got to start riding bikes by any means, there's other things to do. How you go about doing it, how individual small changes proliferate. Dave Brailsford, who's performance director, I think it is, of British Cycling, uses the term aggregation of marginal gains. Yeah? Actually, when you look at what aggregation of marginal gains does, they don't just add up, they multiply. And many small changes actually make a huge difference to performance overall. And I'm just going to finish off with some realities about things. So starting with the first section on how do you identify inspiration. In the last word article that's published in PCR, I managed to get published just last month. You may have seen this, you may not. But I was really talking about improving business. Yes, there's some seats available. There's some more over this side as well, if that makes it easier for you.
We're fine.
Yeah, are you sure? You're standing up for a long time. About how you can go about improving your business. And really talking about the issue of expanding and opening your mind. Because that's one of the things that British Cycling did with tremendous success, was to do that. I'm really making this point that don't assume you only can and should learn things about how you can go about improving your business from the IT channel. Don't assume it even has to be from business, because the guys in cycling didn't just look at sport, they looked at military, they looked at industry, they looked at education, they looked all over the place for excellence and how they could apply it to what they do. Success from anywhere holds valuable lessons. Because do you ever find yourself making excuses for not doing things? Yeah? Simple reality, you're small business owners. You control your destiny. Your time is yours. What you do every day, no one else is going to tell you what to do. It's up to you what happens at any one time. There's a big issue about being sensible and thinking rationally. I'll come on to this later. But there's this psychology, cognitive techniques that get used with cyclists called managing chimps and controlling gremlins, chimps and gremlins. Negative thoughts, unrealistic expectations. People around here won't pay back. That would be a good example of one. Another example would be, I'm no good at maths. Yeah? Well, people around here will pay that, they just don't understand why the price is what it is. Hello. Coming in, yeah, there's some seats over there, and this side. People around here will pay that, they just don't understand why they should, what the value is. And not being good at maths, can't do any maths, well, everyone can, they just haven't yet not met the teacher that's able to teach them. So in both cases, those are unrealistic and irrational thoughts, to be honest. And we all do them all the time. Well, it wouldn't apply to me, I couldn't do that here. It wouldn't be the same. Other businesses aren't like that. If that was the case, every single business would be entirely unique, and that's just impossible. Adopt this approach. Always say, if they can do it, so can I. And again, that's what the guys in the cycling have done. They have been utterly ruthless and relentless in this approach. You know, you're not supposed to know it all. No one said that because you run a business, you've got some amazing insight and vision into how things should be done. It might not have been appropriate at school to copy, but boy is it okay now. In actual fact, most of human progress is based on other people copying what other people have done. So-called fantastic innovations, this idea of cataclysmic invention, doesn't actually exist. It's all about people taking other people's ideas and just finally getting to the stage where it turned into something great. Success is all around you. The issue is about being hungry and looking. And again, British Cycling will show us how that applies. It's all about finding the parallels. How can I apply this? And doing something with it. How could I do it? And that's a really interesting product. I just thought I'd put that in. This was to do with copying. It's a product available in France, would you believe? It's a piece of paper that you write on your to-do list. So you've already written a to-do list. But then you make it as a transfer on your hand when you could have written it straight on your hand anyway. Who'd buy that? You don't know. But anyway. So, what's this remarkable transformation that I'm talking about? I'm going to use this example of British cycling to illustrate it. So, there's only one real game in professional sport, and that's about winning. You measure wins by tournaments, and you measure wins. There's another prize game. Well done, Terry. He's going for gold. Is it sat
No, it's very annoying.
That's one way of phrasing it. Okay, yeah, there's only one game in town when it comes to professional sport, and that's winning things. And if you look at our performance over the Olympics throughout the years, you can see that it doesn't really add up to much. It doesn't really add up to much. There's a fair, there we go, get my buttons all mixed up. There's a fair smattering of bronzes in there, possibly a few more silvers, but the gold line, apart from maybe I don't know what went on in 1908, somebody must have been drinking special substances then. Pardon? Was it in London again? Well done, thank you. Apart from 1908, there really isn't very much to write home about. Yeah, when it comes to the Tour de France, it's been running since 1903. The first time we won a yellow jersey, in other words, we won a stage, let alone a race. We won a stage, it was in 1962. The next was Chris Foreman, 94, you can see the dates for yourselves. Sean Yates, David Miller, again, these are only stage wins. Simpson's best overall finish was 6th in 1962. That was the best overall finish ever to that point. Boardman, Yates and Miller were nowhere near the top. And Robert Miller came 4th in 1984. So a race that's been won since 1903. That's the best we can do in all of that time. And this, if you're going to win a race in cycling, this is the race to win. Clearly. Then something happened. And it was in the shape of money and people. Lottery funding started going into the sport around 1997. And that had a direct and immediate effect on the appointment of the first performance director in 1997. We put into place a structured program of coaching and development for sportsmen. It professionalised the sport overnight. Turned it into something that had just been something that people did as a bit of a hobby, which is something that people did more as a job. And then this guy turns up in 2003, David Brailsford. And he was particularly involved in winning Sky sponsorship for the sport, and was instrumental in a huge increase of funding that was applied to the sport from 2009 with the sole aim of looking to win the Tour de France. And the moment these guys start to get involved, suddenly things change. The moment we start looking at professionalising the sport and growing and developing the sport, suddenly we start winning stuff. And since 2000, we've actually won more golds than ever before. If you added up all the golds before 2000, it would be less than the sum since. If you look at our post-war performance, it's, well, I don't need to show you, it's pitiful. It's pitiful. And across the 50s, 60s, 70s and 80s, 1 silver and 5 bronze combined. We really were a laughing stock. But, as I say, there was this truly amazing acceleration that went on. And of course, yeah, what happened with the Tour de France? Completely transformed. Yeah, Wiggins got 4th in 09, raced to 3rd, so suddenly it's the highest finish ever. He won it in 2012 with another Brit coming 2nd. And Froome, if there was a Tour de France, if the Tour de France is the race to win, then the year to race it in, to win it in, is the 100th year. Yeah, well he did. Froome won it in this year, 100th Tour, and he also won what's called the Beast of Provence, Mont Ventoux, which is one of the stages, particularly arduous hill climb. He happened to win that one as well, which is the stage on which Tommy Simpson died in 1967. So there's all kinds of parallels to our cycling history going on. So it really is, from the point of view of cycling, a truly incredible story. And there we are, world domination. Yeah? World domination. From complete laughing stock to there ain't nobody near us. Nobody near us whatsoever. And you have to ask yourself, right, how did this happen? Why did this happen? And it is widely down and credited to one man, who sees himself as an orchestra conductor, but applies some very simple but powerful techniques to how he runs training and development, if you will, with British cycling. What I want to do now is just run a bit of video, an interview that was completed with him, just so that you can hear him explain how he goes about doing things.
The demands of the event we want to win, so we really figure out what would it take to win whatever it is we want to win. We then prioritise, because you know you can't win everything. You know you will lose more than you win, that's for sure. So decide what you want to win and when, and then we work back to where we are today and look at the gap between where we are today and what we want to win, and create a plan and execute it.
Now I know you're all about marginal gains. Just explain to me what that means. What are the tiny details that you look for when you're coaching?
Well, the whole principle of marginal gains came from the idea that if you broke down everything that could impact on a cycling performance, absolutely everything you could think of, and then you improved every little thing by 1%, when you clump it all together, you're going to get quite a significant increase in performance. So we set about looking at everything we could. I mean, some things are fundamental, like fitness, nutrition, biomechanics, etc. But there are other things which might seem, right on the periphery, but very, very important. So, posture when you sleep, having the right pillow, having the same pillow, so you don't sleep on different pillows all the time when you move from hotel to hotel in training. Hygiene is extremely important, and so how do you generally really know how to clean your hands? And when you wash your hands, if you just ask people to wash their hands, there's always, if you put Dynamas and sort of little bits between the hands and at the base of the thumb here, which always people don't wash, So if you know all those things, you're going to get ill a little bit less. And they're all little things, but if you clump them all together, you improve.
How on earth did you factor in the Tour de France to start with, and then coming into the Olympics? Because anybody looking at that on paper would think that's bonkers. You'll never do both. You'll never be successful in both arenas.
Well, you weren't alone in thinking that. It was an ambitious project to start the Team Sky and the Tour de France team, and Britain had never won the Tour de France, so we wanted to set out and win it within 5 years with a clean British rider. We managed to do it in 2.5, which was fantastic, but it was always bumped up against the Olympics, the Tour de France this year. So it was a big challenge. But essentially, from my point of view, I'm more of an orchestra conductor, and my job is to have a fantastic violinist and cello player and a drummer, and essentially that's the coaching staff, and we've got brilliant coaches.
They're your secret squirrels?
No, the secret squirrel's a little bit different. They're more like R&D and innovation, so they're a small group of people led by Chris Boardman, who look at, outside of cycling, into industry, into the military, into all aspects of, industry, and trying to find where latest innovations are happening and see if there's anything that's applicable to cycling. But they do a great job.
What are some of the key things that Mr. Bradford had to say? We figure out what it will take to win and what we want to win. It's being selective about what he goes after. We prioritise what we want to win when, so we start thinking about it in terms of time. This really important thing, clear recognition, yeah? We will lose more than we win. We will compete. We work back to where we are today. We look at the gap, we create a plan, we execute it. And last and by no means least, we look out for cycling for the best, latest innovations, the secret squirrels, as he called it. What do those things sort of mean? If we were trying to get inside his head, what would we see? Well, one is have clear goals for your business. Remember when I spoke about cycling being a metaphor, for your business? Well, one thing is, yes, if you're going to run, if you're going to enter into races, or even if you're going to make a journey, your goal is your destination, isn't it? You need to pick your competitions. You can't compete on everything. I'm thinking about price as a particular area for competition. You can't compete on every single price that you've got either. Be honest, in fact be ruthlessly honest about your current performance or where the real issues are, not what you'd like to think they are. Work out what it's going to take to win, plan to close that gap, execute that plan. Interesting use of words there that comes up, execute. Search out brilliance elsewhere. Don't be afraid to look outside. That was the point I made in my own article. It doesn't have to be from the IT channel or even business where you look for examples of excellence that you can apply. And strive for ways to apply it. Now, just semantics. I asked you the difference between following a plan and executing a plan. What kinds of words does the word follow evoke in your mind? What is following a plan about?
Being reactive rather than...
Right, being reactive rather than
proactive.
Proactive. Yeah.
Sheep-like.
Big pardon?
Sheep-like.
Sheep-like, yeah. Very passive, almost scared. Almost scared of the plan, in some ways. And yeah, if you just simply look up what follow means, it's a passive word. Track, obey, respect. Adhere to is possibly the closest it gets. But even with adhere to, the implication is that somebody else has written it and you're just following it. Whereas execute, it's all these strong words. Implement, effect, complete, accomplish, finish, fulfill. I've worked with many project managers in my professional career, and the good ones will always use this word, and they will always be pretty ruthless in delivering plans. They chase them down, they make them happen. Yeah? Grit and tenacity are two major components of doing this. Having a mindset where you don't give up. Just because you tried something once doesn't mean it's a failure. You can always improve and try again. And certainly, if you look at Dave Brailsford's background, he is an individual who exhibits alarming levels of grit and determination. I haven't told you any of his story, but just to say, for the sake of it, he left home when he was 15. He decided to get on a boat and a plane and go to the south of France and join a cycling team in France to learn how to cycle. He got there, they all thought he was nuts. He couldn't speak any French. They took advantage of him in terms of they didn't pay him properly when he won races. But he did not give up. So you're talking somebody with massive levels of ambition, grit, tenacity, and energy. So, the segregation of marginal gains thing. Yeah? What's so brilliant about it? Well, let's go back to what he said. You break everything down, you improve everything just a little, and then, to use Dave's own words, or Sergei's own words, you clump it all together and get a significant increase. And that's really where it comes from. That's your marginal gain. And that's your aggregation of. How do you do it? You map out every single thing that affects performance. Right down to, in your case, in any business case, smiling at customers. The greeting that you give people when they walk through the door, the way that you answer the telephone, even the font size on your advertising. We'll look at that in a bit more detail in a moment. You'll be surprised how that can influence readership and readability of your marketing. Then you take all of those factors and you think about how could I improve them? Just a bit. And you bring it all together. Talking about cycling, he mentioned some of the most obvious things. Yeah, he spoke about fitness and nutrition, the biomechanics, which is kind of the geometry of the bike compared to the cyclist, so you're getting the optimum leverage out of them. But also these other things around sleep posture. Yeah? The Tour de France is a 21-day race. Riders are on bikes for 6 hours a day, and every single night they're in a different place. Different beds every single night. The most important thing about sport, about this sport, one of the other things that came in, one of the secret squirrel activities, was to stop using cyclists as trainers. The guy that took over as head trainer in the early days was an ex-swimming coach, where they go about training entirely differently. And it's not about how many races you've done, it's about your recovery and setting up your races in relation to your recovery. And that had a massive effect on how well people started to perform, and an appreciation of, getting rest is really, really vital. And this business to do with hygiene and hand washing, if you're staying in that many different hotels, all those different things that you're touching over those 21 days, you might pick up a terrible stomach bug. Even if you pick up something that just nudges your performance that bit, you're operating at a level where even just that little change is going to make a difference, where you could have won a stage and you come second. There's other things, some of which you think, they're obvious. Wind tunnel training to perfect aerodynamics, stuff that had never been done before. Muscle warming pants worn between races, If any of you in the room have ever done any exercise, you'll know that if you don't warm up properly and you start doing weights or running vigorously, you'll end up with a hurt muscle. I know from personal experience, that can put you away from the gym for 2 to 3 weeks. It's no small thing. So doing this sort of thing is really important. Lightweight track tires being used on the road. Oh, you couldn't do that. Well, they did. A tour bus, a special dedicated tour bus that was actually completely configured inside, special seating and lighting to aid prep for the race, and in particular, recovery from the race. And a dedicated driver, this sounds absolutely bizarre, but anyway, a dedicated driver, a driver whose job is nothing else other than to drive that bus from one venue to the next, to make sure that the riders arrive in good time, and that they're not stressed. More points. Kitchen's overseen by a dedicated chef. Same issue, isn't it, really? Your chances of getting food poisoning multiply up. 21 hotels in 21 days. You will get something. An equipment base based on mainland Europe, so that they could supply the necessary parts for bikes to be made up at any point really quickly and really easily. Previously they were being brought in from the UK. Accommodation is fully prepped up front. Do you know the individual mattresses these guys slept on, the actual density of those mattresses is worked out in relation to their body weight? I mean, it's crazy. They're fitted with hypoallergenic sheets. The rooms have got air conditioning in them that don't just cool them, they sterilise the air. That's how far it goes. They've thought of everything to keep these guys in tip-top condition. And this dedicated sports psychologist. This is the guy that deals with the chimps and the gremlins. He gets inside riders' heads and works out what are the barriers that are stopping them from being supreme. And he helps them to use these techniques to control their thoughts and help them keep in tip-top condition. There's a story going around about Victoria Pendleton, who when she goes on a downer before a race, it used to take her an hour apparently to get back out of it. Using these techniques, she can do it in 5 minutes. That's how effective it is for these people. And that's the goal. Cyclists don't have to worry a thing about anything else other than cycling. They can concentrate on delivering to their unique ability. So it's quite impressive stuff. But what the hell has it got to do with your business? Good question. Should we ever go at finding out how? Right. What's your goal? What's the race that you're running? Retirement, which takes money. Yeah, you're in business to make a profit. Even if you're not, I'm not suggesting that people drive around in Maseratis, but you need to make money to put food on the table, and that takes profit. So if you think about profit and breaking down a business, here we go. This is an approach you can use to break down your business. Profit at the top. Well, what are the things that affect profit? Any ideas? Revenue.
Customers.
Right, staff. Sales, revenue. The margin that you make on those sales, and the costs that go out the door for being in business at all, your overheads. Really simple model. Staff, yes. I'm not suggesting they don't matter, it's just the way I'm drawing it. Staff we could have up there too, right? Yeah, well it's overhead in terms of the cost, but attitudinally, you might put it somewhere else. But you see, another factor suddenly appeared. Now, I'm not going to lecture you on your overhead costs. It's not my place to do so. But we've spoken about pricing before as well, through the price comparison work I've done this morning. So I'm going to focus on sales. So if we break down sales, we get things like paying customers, rather than just straightforward inquiries. The average sale that those paying customers give us, and the number of those sales. How many times do I sell to that person in a particular period of time? So, paying customers. What affects the numbers of paying customers?
Advertising.
Could do, yep. Any other ideas?
Customer service. Price.
Service, price, okay.
Location.
Location, good, yeah. None of these things are wrong, right? You're just working in a different order to how I'm doing it. All I'm showing you is a way of thinking about it. Because sooner or later, I'll end up with what you're saying anyway, doing it this way. You've just got to do it in a slightly different way. You can do it simply by saying paying customers is the result of inquiries and conversion. The number of people who walk through the door versus the number of those that I can actually get to buy from me. Inquiries come from new customers and from existing. Repeat, yeah, no way of putting it. Existing customers. See, you follow? This is how you can build it out. The number of levels doesn't matter, and what factors are at which level doesn't matter either. All you're doing is every time you find a factor thinking, okay, what affects it? What affects it? What affects it? That's what you're doing, building a hierarchy. So, yeah, new customer inquiries. What affects new customer inquiries? Advertising. Reputation. Yeah. Referrals. Well, I've looked at it from just this level at the moment. Do more marketing or do better marketing? Now, that's an interesting one, because every time you think about what affects things, you can think about quality versus quantity. Yeah? I will get more customers through the door if instead of doing 50,000 leaflets, I do 1 million. 20,000 leaflets and I do 20,000. Yeah? I will get more customers through the door if I do the same 10,000 leaflets, but I have a great piece of marketing on there, something that really engages and captures attention. An offer that makes people think, oh, I want to find out more about that. Yeah? Combine the two together, you start to see the effect of marginal gain. Yeah? It's not just additive, it's a multiplication. But yeah, marketing, yeah? So do more leaflets, more advertising. And a whole host of other things, more directory listings, have more landing pages on my website, do more business networking, make more contacts with people, however which way I can, get on the TV, the radio. All of those sorts of things are perfectly valid, it's just I don't have enough space to do it. Doing better marketing. How do you do better marketing? Focused? Meaning?
Focusing on a particular thing.
Particular product?
Yeah.
Right, that's one way of looking at it. Design, yeah.
Understand your niche market.
Yeah. Focus on the needs of who you're trying to sell to, and then match your message to suit. Yeah. Targeted offers, I call it. Call it what you will, call it focus offers. Improved calls to action is another marketing term. Now, I'm not trying to be exhaustive here, I'm just showing you a way of breaking things down. And a whole load of other things around improving better marketing. You can think about the use of colour, for example. Yeah, black and white versus colour. There's stats that say that a colour advert is read 64% more than the same ad in black and white. Yeah? It's a simple, that's a marginal gain, just by taking the same artwork and putting it in colour that you once were doing in black and white. So yes, I mentioned that already. But the issue here is if you're doing better marketing, hang on a minute, my marketing is better, it's more targeted. So in other words, the people coming to me through my door have actually got a higher propensity to buy from me than otherwise. They're more interested in the product because I've aligned it with who they are. Yeah, I've thought about the OAPs outside my shop and I've put together that targeted bundle of products to sell them. And sure enough, they buy. I convert more because it's more relevant. So suddenly, doing better marketing also links back to customer conversion. Okay, so this aggregation point starts to become a multiplying point. But let's go even further. Because if I'm already doing more and better marketing to new customers, well, hang on a minute. My existing customers will benefit from that as well. There'll be other things I would do for them over and above, but there's a marginal gain to be made by applying those principles to that group too. So the point I'm making here is, these individual marginal gains that could seem like just thousands and thousands of little things that that you could consider doing, don't just add up, they multiply, and they multiply dramatically. Still don't talk about this, because one of the things I said about working out your business and driving it down, I glibly said that you need to think about the greeting that you give people when they walk through the door. And I also said, what about the font size on your leaflets? Here's some stats that will possibly be interesting for you. Headlines below images get read 10% more than those that are above. Simple change that you can instantly make to improve the impact that your marketing has. Text written over pictures reduces attention by up to 20% because it's hard to read. Large initial drop caps, where you see in printed material sometimes where perhaps the sentence starts with the word the and the T is really big. A large initial drop cap increases readership by 13%. I'm not saying you have to do all these things, I'm just illustrating to you where marginal gains can come from. It's that point about you maximise readership by setting copy 11 point is recommended minimum size, no smaller because people can't see it. You keep it in characters, columns 40 to 50 characters wide. Don't set body copy in reversed out type, it's hard to read. Captions under images get twice the readership of the associated body copy. Yes, that's quite often when you see a piece of advertising or an article even in a magazine, you quite often find under an image a piece of the text from the actual body copy has been pulled out and put underneath the image. And that's because they want to make a particular point and draw people to a particular point. Because naturally as humans we're drawn to the image, we read what's immediately below it. It's just simple mechanics. And it goes on. Goes on. And if you're interested, I don't plug books, I don't get any royalties out of it, but I got that back in 2005 when I was running a design and print business. And I can honestly say it's a fantastic book. 26 quid. Okay, it's worth every penny. That's my choice and my decision. I would, if you can get hold of a second-hand copy to read and make a decision about purchasing it, I strongly suggest you do it, because it goes right through the whole of principles of gaining attention, interest, invoking desire, and right through to conversion. All of the little things you can do to improve what you're doing. So, assessing performance when thinking about that, yeah, I've already mentioned this, think about quantity and quality. So, more marketing versus better marketing. Well, there's another one for you. You'll get more inquiries if your opening hours are longer. It's just a simple fact, isn't it? Because more people are passing by. In fact, you could probably get disproportionately more if you opened at the time when most people are around. So if you're on a morning run, be that for people taking kids to school, or people walking through to get the train to go to work, yeah, if you opened early or opened late, that will have a big effect too. I've got a customer I've met with in Huddersfield who opens deliberately until 9 o'clock in the evening. Why? Because he's on a major arterial road. So what? There's all that business traffic passing. So what? They all come in with their iPhones and iPads and broken screens. He has a ton of business late in the day, all because of targeted opening hours. And the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, which is a point I hope I'm getting across to you. This isn't just about lots of little things that individually add up to a lot of little things added up together. I said that quickly, didn't I? Yeah, there's more to it. How to go about doing it and how individual changes proliferate. Right, I'm going to take you through a little bit of a model here to try and illustrate the point. Getting more people to visit. It's a classic problem. Of all the things to start with, it's probably one of the most important things to any small business, certainly in my life as a business advisor. Getting more inquiries is the number one issue, apart from price, that always comes up. And if you're a shop, yeah, every day footfall's passing your door. Many of those people will notice what we'll call your street presence. Your street presence is the sum of your parts being your shop sign, your shop window, maybe you've got A-boards, maybe you've even got shutters with signage on them when you close up at night. That could be described as your street presence. You may have other things like this, flags and as well. Okay? Many people notice you. Some are interested in what it says, the message that it speaks to them. Yeah? And a few will be inclined to walk through your door. The issue is, once they're in, you're confident you can sell to them. The problem is getting them in. So if we think about that in a bit more of a sort of analytical way, let's say for the sake of argument, you get 1,000 people walking past your shop in a day or a week, doesn't matter. There's 1,000 people walking over a period of time. Your shop presence means that 50% of them actually, I've noticed there's a computer shop there. So of that 1,500 actually have taken notice. For some reason, 20% of them become interested. Maybe your shop sign. You can't say a lot in a shop sign, but some people have words like computer repairs, for example. Maybe that word, computer repairs, makes them think, oh, that's interesting to know. I didn't know they did that. I remember that. But maybe there's more that goes on, because maybe your A-board talks about a particular offer that converts that last 20% to come through the door. Yeah? So just thinking about attention, interest, and inquiry, which are really important stages of bringing people in. You can see how that 1,000 people drops off to just 20. And then, of course, you've actually got to convert them, which you're pretty confident with, but it still won't be 100%, but that's a different issue. They're into sales skills then. Now, thinking about that breakdown of marginal gains. So, passers-by inquiries, what are all the factors that influence that? I've already mentioned shop sign, what it says. You may have an A-board, your shop window, what's in it, how it's laid out. You may have signage on your shutter when you close up at night. Some people have designs on their shutters, you may not. Opening hours. Yeah? And there may be other things that you do as well. You may have flags. Yeah? You may have all sorts of other gizmos and widgets that help create this presence on the road. Now, different things work differently. Now, part of modelling this was just to simply look at how effective different things are. And this is purely arbitrary, and I'm just explaining it to you so you understand the model that we built. So if I take all of those things, shop signage, A-boards, window, and shutter, we just took 100% and said, which of those is most effective at grabbing people's attention? Yeah? Well, shop signage can't really say much. It probably says the name of the business and maybe a phone number. And it might say computer repairs. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it just says ABC Computers. So shop signage typically isn't going to be the major thing that grabs attention. But A-boards are entirely different. You're walking along and an A-board is right in front of you. An A-board really grabs, especially if what's on it is written. So we put it up to 30%. If your shop is sited right on a busy street, literally where people are walking past you all the time, then that shop window is going to have a big impact as well, because in there you're able to display things nicely to attract people's attention. So we just decided, okay, we'll give that 40% out of that 100. Shutter signage, much less so. Why? Well, it's only there at night, isn't it? There's far less people passing. So in terms of the proportion of attention it's grabbing, it's going to be somewhat lower. And then we applied those principles, that same sort of set of principles to how good these things are at spurring interest and inquiry. The numbers don't absolutely matter, just trying to illustrate what we did. So, thinking about an A-board. So, what impacts the performance of an A-board? Content.
Size.
Size.
Position.
Position, yeah.
Design.
Design. Yeah. Position and location. I've broken this out a bit in terms of message appeal. Yeah? Is it something that's interesting? The design appeal, someone mentioned design, definitely. The relevance of the message, so I might have on my A-board a great offer for gaming computers, when everybody walking past is, I don't know, going to and from work and isn't interested in gaming, so it might not be relevant to you. The message readability, can I actually see it? Is the font size so small I have to go right up to it and peer at it before I can make sense of it, or does it really jump out at me? The clarity of the message. Is it written clearly, the English used clear? Do I understand what is being communicated to me easily, just in a glance? The currency of that message. Maybe that you might have something on your A-board that says there's an offer on that ends in August, September. And other things like that for products that have been superseded and so on. How often you refresh it? Yeah? If you do not change your shop windows, if you do not change what's on your shop, on your A-board, it disappears. Because it always looks the same. There's nothing new, there's nothing fresh, there's nothing to attract attention. So there's this issue about frequency. Proposal 2. And the number of them. Yeah, rather than have one A-board, why not have one at that end of my shop and one at this end of my shop? They might say exactly the same thing. But we're doubling the chances of increasing and grabbing people's attention. And there'll be more. There are other things that people have said. I'm not trying to create an exhaustive list here, but just using the model. I'm sure you can think of lots of other things. So, those other things that I mentioned, like shop signage, you know, that's a breakdown of what affects the performance of shop signage. That's a breakdown of things that would affect the performance of a shop window. That's a breakdown of what would affect the performance of shutter signage, which is quite unusual in the first place, but there we go. But what we're doing is we're thinking constantly in hierarchies. Every time you come up with a factor, immediately it's, okay, what affects that factor? Down and down and down and down and down. 22 factors in all, and interestingly, 4 of these overlap. So if we start looking at things like attractiveness of design, it immediately starts to have a multiple effect. Yeah? Start looking at message clarity. Again, I think that's another one that appears in the 3. Good basic principles, marginal gains that can be made and applied across multiple areas to have a bigger impact. So, improve everything by just 3%. It's pretty small. On all those things. We did a bit of modelling, and that had an impact on, remember the figures before, this is how much those things have increased. We've improved all those little things by 3%, and this is the net effect we're getting. And overall, by improving things marginally, what we're finding is our ability to attract attention has gone up nearly a quarter, just by doing lots of little marginal things. Yeah? Same for interest, same for inquiry. That's just how the numbers fell out. There was no planning in that at all. So already we're seeing, hang on, this is having a bit of a disproportionate impact. Now, if you apply that to where we were before, so that's our as is, 1,000 people, 50% of them notice us, 20% of them are interested, and 20% of them come through the door. Well, hang on, we've applied a marginal gain to all these different factors, which means that the new percentages are now up here. We've increased them quite dramatically. If we apply those to those original numbers, look at what we get. Look at what we get. So just by applying 3% to something like 35 different factors, 80% rise. What you'll find, which is really interesting here, this is this business about gains proliferating. Down here, that's your 87% of 3, but it's not a linear relationship. If your marginal gain can be bigger, then it has an even bigger disproportionate effect. So, for the sake of argument, if all your marginal gains were 10%, you hit a 450% rise. It's huge. It's huge. And what I'm trying to do here is illustrate this point. Marginal gains are greater than the sum of the parts. Yeah? In actual fact, it's not futile to think of things as little tiny things that you can improve only a little. Yeah? The tendency is always to try and look for the big silver bullet that's going to solve all their problems. Yeah? This is all about, hang on a minute, there's another way to look at things. Another way to look at things. British Cycling have used it to great effect. What about longer opening hours? We spoke about that, didn't we? Yeah? Or opening at different times. This is this more or different approach. And we're not actually doing anything to improve anything at all, we're just staying open longer. I'm not suggesting everyone does this, I don't think that you all don't open long enough already. I'm just It out. So this is where we are. This is our current marginal gain. Well, let's say we open that bit longer and we get 10% more footfall. Yeah? Instead of opening for the day, instead of closing at 5, I stay open until 6:30 and catch some of the trains coming back from wherever the nearest big town is to you. And I get 10% extra people. What does that do to my numbers? Suddenly, up they go. So a 10% increase has led to an 18% rise. It rattles through. All we're trying to illustrate here is that marginal gains are greater than the sum of the parts. So, some realities about all that. Yeah, one of the things about marginal gains is you end up with hundreds, possibly, of factors that you might want to influence. And you can't at all. It'd be unreasonable to think about it. So how do you decide what you should do? Well, just simply think about things from a priorities point of view. And by prioritising, I mean, think about the impact that that change might have, and think about how easy it is to do. That was nice little 4-quadrant model there. Things that are easy and have high impact, get on and do. Yeah? Then you hit this one. And it's really which is priority 2 and which is priority 3. I had a bit of a chat with Paul about this. He saw it differently to me. I'm more understanding here, so I'll tell you what I think. What I think is probably that's your priority 2. Why? Because it's easy. And because it's easy, it'll get done. Yeah? Whereas this is difficult. Yes, it has high impact, but it might be tougher. Therefore, maybe it won't. Yeah. You put it off. I haven't got the energy for doing it. You know, it's a moot point. And clearly, you know, bottom corner, low impact and difficult. You've got better things on your plate to do. Mr. Brailsford, yeah, we will lose more than we win. Okay? A really, really good point to take on board. You pick your competitions, but even then, you're prepared to lose. Because it's all part of competing. Clear recognition, not everything succeeds. One thing I would say to you, plans and planning, plans don't have to be war and peace. They just have to be clear. You do planning all the time, if you think about it. You know, coming here you have to plan. It's not that nobody in the room does planning, you do it every day. You think about the jobs that you've got on, you work out which you'll do today and which you'll do tomorrow. And a customer comes in with something broken, you're immediately talking about planning when you start saying, you can't fit it in today, but we could do it by Thursday. That's all planning. Everyone does it. But we are talking about taking it up a level, because we are talking about doing things to your business that will have an impact over time. So these aren't necessarily things that you can do right now and will have an immediate impact. You know? The things that you do progressively and you build, they do have a great impact. Dwight Eisenhower, 34th President of the United States, Supreme Commander of Allied Forces in Europe, and a 5-star general, though for some reason on this picture he's only got 4. Who knows why? He is accredited, that's the right word, credited with this quote. Yeah? In preparing for battle, I have always found that plans are useless. So don't do them. Hang on, but planning is indispensable. So what's he talking about? What's he actually saying?
Have a plan but be versatile.
Sorry?
Have a plan but be versatile.
Have a plan but be versatile, could be one take on it, yeah. You've got to have a starting point.
Have a plan, but carry it out. No, just have a plan.
Yeah, and be prepared for it to change, be versatile. He's also speaking about this process of thinking things through. Yeah? The process of planning is more important than the document it produces. The exercise in thinking, hang on a minute, how does all this fit together? Which would I do first? And if I did that, would I still need to do that? Yeah? That's what he's talking about. As many people say, I've got a plan and it's in my head. Okay? Yeah, it's not about the plan, it's what you did to get to it. And if you've got a plan in your head, I'd really, really ask you to question whether you honestly thought it through, or adequately thought it through. Is it just an excuse for not really having one? Genuinely having one. You know? It's not about now, it's not about things you can do quickly and run around like a blue-ass fly. Yeah? These are long lists of things that you will do progressively over time in an order, and look at how you're doing and change how you do things. And it's a really interesting one as well. You know, things can often make a lot of really good sense. The problem is when you try and write them down, suddenly they don't. Happens to me all the time. We have great ideas for writing blogs. Yeah, points we want to make, things we want to get across, and then we start trying to actually explain them, and suddenly they don't make sense. Yeah. So this issue of writing things down is actually important from that perspective. It tests how coherent, whether this plan actually stands up and makes sense. Yeah. And vitally, if you have staff, you've got to be able to explain what we want to do and be credible. Your boss, yeah? And if the moment somebody asks you about, well, we're going to change this, what happens if? The moment you can't answer that, and deal with it coherently as the boss, what does that do to you as the leader of those people? It doesn't put you in the best of lights, does it? Makes you sound like your new initiative may not be very well thought about. Yeah? Will that inspire them to be 100% behind it? Maybe, maybe not. Good. Well, there's this other one. I tried that, it didn't work. This is getting back to chimps and gremlins again. Yeah, it doesn't work around here like that. If you've got a leaflet drop, and a good response, a really good response on a standard leaflet drop would be about 1%. Yeah? Can you gauge whether your leaflet drop has been successful after you do it once? How many times do you have to do it? 100. Think about it. Yeah. Probably 50 will do it. Law of averages would say 50, but it could be 100 depending on your luck, depending on your fortune. Yeah, it takes 100 drops to prove the point. Yeah? How many times have I heard people say, well, I tried X, I tried Y, and didn't do it? Yeah, I stopped because, when they hadn't actually given things a fair chance.
Sometimes the problem is knowing what that fair chance is.
Yeah.
Am I putting their balls or am I...
Well, yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that should be one of the things that you think about before you go into it in the first place. Try and work out, right, if I'm going to do this, how will I know when it's genuinely been successful or not? Yeah, don't do anything half-heartedly. If you're going to do something, you go at it. This is about the grit and determination point again. Yeah? You're not doing it because you're trying to cross it off a list. You're not doing it because John put it in a blog. Yeah? You're doing it because you might have read it in a blog and you think, hey, hang on a minute, that sounds like something I could really, really go for. Yeah? Or in actual fact, you wanted to do it to prove that the advice wouldn't work. No, I can't do that here. I did it, I knew it wouldn't work. There's also something else that says about the person as well, and what they're prepared to do and use their time for. Be utterly realistic, okay? The 3 things to take account of. You're not going to win everything. Pick your battles. Think about where you can compete and where you can't. And that links back as well to those of you who are here on the price comparison, the retail price workshop, about which products to go head-to-head on. Yeah? Do you exploit a price difference on cables publicly, or do you exploit price differences on those 1-watt speakers? Yeah? You probably wouldn't do the speakers. You'd go for something where it was worth going for. So you pick your battles, and it takes resolve, grit, tenacity to be successful. You've got to stick at it. Go back to this stuff that chimps and gremlins will give you. It's really, really important not to be irrational about things. And where I started out right at the beginning, if they can do it, so can I. Secret to marginal gains? Relentless, unerring resolve, and determination to improve. That is really the bottom line. As well, everyone. Yeah. If you've got staff, they've all got to be behind it as well. So, some fairly sobering messages there. But what I would like to do is just show you one other video.
This is love, absolutely flying Great Britain. Great Britain are the world champions, and they are now going to become the Olympic champions. They are on fire. They are on fire. Here comes Chris Hoy, gold medal for Great Britain, a new world record. Kenny's got the head of the race, and Bourget will not take it. Kenny is the Olympic sprint champion. He wins the gold medal, and he won it in style. Victoria Pendleton has ignited the burners. Oh, she is the Olympic keirin champion. The gold medal is Great Britain's. Here they come up to the line. Oh, look at the time. It's a new world record. Trotters ripped out of the gate. A lot of trots on fire. Victoria Pendleton's career ends on a silver medal. Chris Hoy gets the gold medal.
So, you're in any doubt how powerful it can be. It really can deliver some truly amazing results. So that's the story of British Sonic Cream. That's how you can apply it to your business. Marginal gains, all about just breaking things down. Nothing fancy, nothing simple, just being logical, methodical, and utterly ruthless, and relentless in what you do. So, we started off, we talked about the success of the British cycling team and how it's ramped, literally just taken off in the last 3 Olympics. And it's all down to this marginal gains principle. Yeah? Leaving no stone unturned is one of the phrases that gets used, particularly by one of the head coaches, who was particularly well known for doing it. We looked about how it could relate to your business, and this principle about how it's just not little things individually, that they start to multiply and connect. And we used it to look at a model, just to show that in practice. Yeah? I'm not trying to say this will happen to you, I'm just trying to illustrate the point, they multiply up. That's the end of this session. Next up at 2:30, price competition and how to do it. Thanks very much.